So this panel is aimed to discuss projects in public spaces or outside of the venues, which are more and more proposed to the artist or by the artists. This is connected with this concentration and decentralization, and which is also a topic of audiences. And we saw how building audiences is hard in the last panel, but it's something that we all are really interested in and committed. So nowadays we observe that everywhere in Europe and in the region, that initiatives that are raising in the performing arts sector, that are gathering artists and communities outside of the venues. In Rouen, we saw that it is a very strong example, and I would just take a few keywords that Christine was mentioning: undesignated venues, proximity of the venues, actions with the inhabitants are tools for building audiences. And last but not least, the wish of the local authorities of building audiences through performing arts, because they are convinced about the power of this art to reach new communities and to talk to, because it's all about talking to each other. It's all about be connected and reconnecting. Also, after COVID times, we saw that COVID times came up with new challenges, but also new solutions in terms of reaching audiences outside of the venues. Also to say that these projects that are organized in public spaces, in urban spaces, in heritage sites, are built within the communities also, and to stress that we could also think on how circus tents as a chapiteau is also a tool to attract new audiences, because it's more popular. It's not so it's not that venue that you have to enter in and then to commit with the codes of theater. And on this point, I would like to just to remind a quote of Ulrich Fuchs, who is a European Capital of Culture Pope, let's say, who was saying in 2019 with Galway capital, he was saying that the circus tent is something that is really building audiences, because it could be everywhere, and it's also a place to welcome every kind of artistic project, not only circus. So this is something that we could also have in mind. Depending on who is the initiative coming from, goals are different, issues and challenges as well. And what we could learn from those experiences in terms of relation between artists and local authorities, festival and venues, and with the audiences is the very topic. Here with me, some of you already know, Milan Manic from Cirkospera and Cirkobalkana Festival, Jadranka from Cirkorama and Cirkobalkana Festival, Jonathan Pranlas-Descourts from the Sinequanon Art Company, you will discover the Out of the Blue tonight, who has many projects outside of the venues, but also inside of the venues, and this experience is very important. Chloé Béron, that you already know, some of you, not all of you. She's the director of the CIAM, Center International for Art in Motion in Aix-en-Provence in France. And Irena, who you already know, she works at the Ministry of Culture now, but she was at Rijeka 2020 before, and this is the very strong experience that she would share in a few minutes. And Eleftérios, Kechiagioglou, he's from Petit Cirque du Monde in Bagneux, which is close to Paris. And Eleftérios has also strong experience, and he's actually his architect by profession, but now he's director of the circus, and he's working in many projects in the region on the topic of new audiences and connections between urban spaces and artistic performances. So maybe just to give a frame of the speeches, the idea is not to only to present, but maybe to go really directly to 2 or 3 ideas that we would like to share, and then really, please in the audience, feel free to react, to be interactive, and to comment on what we are speaking about. Maybe to start, let's start with the Croatian projects. I would like to ask you, Irena, maybe to speak about the project that Rijeka 2020 was held in terms of audience development with communities, and also what you shared with me regarding COVID times, because it was really the big challenge.
Yes, hello again, everybody. Thank you for the invitation and for this space to share experience of Rijeka 2020, European Capital of Culture. Just to give you a few words of to describe the project in terms of its scope, so that we understand what we are talking about. So Rijeka was the first Croatian city to be nominated ever European Capital of Culture. The nomination happened in 2016, and the year for the celebration was 2020. However, we started preparing in 2013, and the project ended in 2021, which means that for almost 10 years, more than 10 years, we worked on the project, on its preparation. It was huge in every term, in terms of budgets. We are talking about 50 million euros, 30 million for infrastructural projects, and 20 million for programming. It had more than 220 partners from 40 countries around the world. And it was really very, very ambitious. The whole initiative, European Capital of Culture, is very ambitious as an idea in the European space, but also it was very ambitious for our town. And it's very much linked also with the topic that we had in the previous panel, especially not just decentralization in terms of the economy, capital, province, but also more in terms of deconcentration, which was very, very much built into the vision of our project. And this was to deconcentrate not from Rijeka center to neighborhoods that are far away from the center, from downtown, but also to deconcentrate the cultural activities to the very fringes and edges of the county, of the region where it was happening. It had other very ambitious aims to transform the city in terms of infrastructure, in terms of its skyline, to invest a lot in cultural organizations, to give new image to the city in terms of city branding, in terms of its visibility on national but also European level, all these economical goals, but also a lot of social goals, namely in terms of working with the communities, working with the audiences, involving them in a very active way in our project and in the whole story. So we started from a very ambitious point, and the preparations went well. And what happened was the COVID year 2020. We had a wonderful opening in February 2020, and right after that, if you remember, March, news came from Italy, and just everything came to halt. Nevertheless, to make the long story short, we managed to recompose, to restructure, to reprogram, and to use the most of what was accessible at that moment, and to implement the project. Obviously, many things were not done. Just to remind you, lockdown, confinement, borders closed, the artists could not join us. The budgets were severed, like 50% from the part of the ministry, local government, all sponsors went away. It was just, you know, a bedlam. But nevertheless, when the whole Europe was shut down, we managed in the summer of 2020 until the end of the year, we managed to implement more than 400 cultural programs and to have many, many events. And there we come to our topic about spaces and how to use space. Obviously, the first impulse was to push everything online, which is not easy, and everybody who does, and there was a lot of confusion between digital space and digital art. In order to develop digital art, you need time, you need knowledge, you need artists, etc. But pushing everything into digital space was more a question of communication, of just showing what you were doing. So we have experience, but we will leave that aside. But we also we wouldn't give up on physical space. So we had to be very inventive and see what was possible in terms, in the context of the confinement. So I think that there are some very good lessons learned. So obviously every public space became very useful. I mean, but in a different way. So for example, we had Festival Toboggan with circus artists also the year before, and we had 20,000 people, 20,000 people outside, which was unthinkable of in 2020. For 2020, we programmed a French group, Les Artistes Volants, Les Plasticiens Volants. But obviously, they couldn't come. It's a famous French group, but nevertheless, we had Toboggan Festival for kids. Public spaces were very useful in public squares. So we put red crosses on the floor where just a family of four could stand together with 2 meters distances apart. There were volunteers, you know, spreading people. But yes, it was possible in public spaces, squares. We were inventive, and the artists were inventive in the sense that they used balconies, top floors of shopping malls, every space where they could arrange audiences in a way so that they could participate in a much smaller number, but still have this physical contact especially in terms when we talk about performing arts, is valuable and something that cannot be replaced easily or in any way. Also, museums proved to be spaces that could be easily managed in crisis moments like that, because you can really plan the entrances, plan the number of audiences, and still provide content to them in a safe environment. And finally, we used huge warehouses. Rijeka is namely a port city, is a huge industrial city. So we also used one of those huge warehouses in the center of the city where we put our two major exhibitions and where we could again organize the space and the audiences so that they can have a safe access to the content. So these were examples where we nevertheless wanted to have more people in one space. Other examples are, I would call them intimate consumption of cultural content, where we created artists nevertheless did their programs, but adapted them for very intimate, almost individual contact with almost one person, two people, 5 people at the time at the most, so that still there could be this direct contact with the audience and experience of live art. And finally, even when we talk about digital showing of the cultural program, again here we try to use alternative spaces and then showing programs online when they happen there. I would, as an example, I would give you a concert of a very famous punk group from the 80s. Who the concert they gave a concert with the Philharmonic Orchestra from Rijeka. Obviously, we could for that we used the Fish Market, which is a beautiful Art Deco building in the center of Rijeka. Obviously, we could not have audience there, but the whole thing was filmed and shown online. But still, apart from the concert, we also gave space to the space. I mean, the building itself became actor in the whole show, and it was given momentum and significance. So these are just some of the examples from a very specific crisis moment. I hope it will never again repeat itself. But as I said, we learned some lessons that even in difficult times, there are ways in how to use a space creatively. There are other examples from artists working in very remote parts of the county, site-specific installation, etc. But maybe afterwards, when talking about the communities and link with artists, we can talk about that.
Yeah, great. Yes, this is a really important sharing, because yes, it will not happen anymore, but we don't know, and we learned a lot from that.
I just want to ask you, what is the heritage of after
the legacy?
The legacy, in terms of cultural projects.
Okay. This is the favorite question of all inhabitants in Rijeka, and especially the politicians. You know.
So I want to know what expecting 3 years.
Absolutely, there are a lot of colleagues who say that the legacy, who really question the legacy and the importance of the legacy. As somebody who worked, I would say that legacy is very important, that it would be shown in, especially in 5-year, 10-year time. What is most visible are the infrastructural projects. So we are talking about almost 30,000 square meters in the center of the city of a former industrial complex that shut down in the 90s. And that was now being transformed in the new cultural neighborhood art park in the center of the city. So 4 cultural institutions found a new home there. I would single out one, and which is called Children's House, and which is a very unique institution or venue in Croatia, completely dedicated to children. 0 to 12, 13 years old, and to their, not just programs for them, but also to their creativities. And also what is very unique is that the several cultural institutions, so the cinema RBC, the museum, library, they are jointly, and also some NGOs, they are jointly creating programs for that venue. Also, the whole complex has a big public space, which is still, they are still working, there are still works going on. And I hope that what is meant in the future is that a lot of programming happens outside. So we have new venue, a new type of collaborations. Other physical, there are a lot of physical interventions, murals, installations, not just in the city, but also in the whole region. There is one program line that we've had, it's called the Lungomare Art, where we asked contemporary artists from around Europe to create site-specific projects. And this is also interesting for the further, for later in our conversation, because they were in residencies and they stayed and worked with the communities in order to create ideas and designs for our specific installations. There's a new university program in architecture and urban planning that is the direct result of programming that we had. These are very tangible results. There is also, I would say, definitely new networking. The city has a new position on the European map. There are a lot of partners that we worked with and that the cultural institutions now, I hope, continue working with. We also had a very extensive capacity building program for audience development, cultural management, cultural policies. Almost 2,000 people went through their program. Through that program, it had different modules or methodologies, from residencies or visiting organizations abroad to bringing European experts to Rijeka to talk about different topics. So all this knowledge is, or majority is still in the city. A lot, I hope that especially the local government will pick up on all that was done and continue in the future, that the results and this legacy is going to build into the new cultural strategy, which is also linked with the previous topic of decentralization, and that especially this work with the communities and evolving communities, that they will create tools, grants, platforms for that to continue. So it's, I really, as somebody who worked in the local administration, now national, I think it's very important to enable artists through these structures, not just menu, but also policies, strategies, grants, to give this, to give them a structure that will enable them to create and to evaluate, to evolve. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time to stop.
No.
I worked on this project for 10 years. So
Yes, I know that 5 minutes is too short. Maybe we can continue this question of ECOC and communities, because it's something that ECOC, European Capital of Cultures, which is part of the big book, and it's something that we know that all of the capitals are really facing and willing to address. Maybe asking Eleftérios to speak about maybe the project that you are working on with Elefsina in Greece, 2023 EPAC, but also, I guess, with Timișoara a bit as a perspective.
Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to present shortly what we are doing in Elefsina, with Capital Culture of Europe 2023 now. And there is a parallel project that will start also with Timișoara. So I first went there 4 years ago in Elefsina, invited by Institut Français of Greece, in a project that was called A Politician and Artist. It was a project designed by Maud Lefloc from Polo. She's a cultural urbanist. And the idea was how an artist can meet a territory and also the political authority. So this first mission in 2018, in the beginning of the Capital Culture, gave me a lot of information about how the citizens of the city were positioned concerning this idea of ECOC city, and the majority of this city were against this capital culture. Why? Elefsina is a suburban town of Athens, is the holy city of ancient Greece, because the city of mysteries, of transition, of Elefsina. And now it's the most industrial town in Greece, with a lot of issues, of course, about pollution, about working class people that have been suffering for several years, first from pollution, and then by unemployment, because a lot of these industries have shut down, and there was a big issue about unemployment. Today is, curiously, is a very interesting also city because of the pollution. A lot of the urban sides of the city has been preserved as they were. So we have habitations and an urban planning really very close to what it was in the 50s and 60s. And so the people of the city are willing, of course, to improve their everyday life, and they think that culture should come by the end. So this was the second very interesting thing is there are no venues for the moment in Elefsina. Maybe the first venue will be ready in 2023, but everything should be in the street. So this also was very challenging to see how can we build actions, festivals, participatory events with the people. So this project, Climbing Elefsina, I will try to share my screen now just to give you some images. Just a moment, see how it works. Yes. I don't know. Is it okay if I can share now? Yes, here. And yeah, that's that. That's here. Okay. Okay. So we'll not put the sound so we can you see my screen now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So just so the first part of the project started in October. So we can see different landscapes of Elefsina, and the idea is how we link a project with architects, the famous architect Patrick Bouchin that also built our place, and Loïc Julien, they're going also to build the place of CIAM, and with performing arts. So you can see now dancers from Greece, circus artists and musicians coming from France and different other countries. And the idea was how to link open rehearsals, open building of a performance that is site-specific, but it is inspired from the city. And by the same time, the group that you can see wandering around the city, they are working about the story, the history of contemporary Elefsina. So the two projects are very linked. You can see here Patrick Bouchin, because the artistic director of the city gave us the purpose, how can we work in urban spaces if ever there is nothing ready to host us. And so the idea was that the artists will come with us and that will highlight some areas where there are issues about urban transformation and about how people of the city need and seek for urban transformation. What is their first purpose? Do they want to have an artistic venue, or do they want first to improve the places, to make walks around the city to understand what's happening and to improve things? So this year was the first time. Now I'm going to Elefsina next week, and some participants from Timișoara, from Saint-Denis in France, maybe from other countries will come and join us. And next year, there will be an important meeting during the project, workshop with the Cirque Strada Network. Of course, you're all invited to come because we would like to favor the participation also from artists and citizens all around Europe, and especially from the Balkan area. And this will be between the 13th and the 17th of June 2023. The issues was how to meet the people, and especially how to meet also their needs. in order that our artistic creation is very close to highlight the main issues. To explain it, and then I stop and give you the space for the questions if you have. The idea was to go to in-between spaces where you can see this architect, where in the spaces where the kind of frontier, you can see how we cross this frontier under the very unprivileged areas where there are industries and areas of the city, and how in these frontiers, you can see the industrial landscape, we can give a new image of the city, because the motto of the city has been for 40 years, the city where we never stop, because it's really close to the highway. And as soon as there are a lot of petrol refineries, there is a smell. So people, they didn't used to stop there. And yes, so I can stop the presentation and maybe you have some questions. Just leave the images by the end, so it's another 1 minute or two. I don't know if you have some questions you would like to ask.
Thank you, Eleftérios. What do you plan to do in Timișoara? Well, you have maybe any question, and Imre, you have a question, as you will be the next place to.
I have a question about Timișoara. Well, not expressly one, because I had a meeting with Eleftérios maybe 2 weeks ago, and the project is in the beginning. So we will have a face-to-face meeting in July to develop the space and the project that we will come, and we go in the same direction to exploit the outdoor space, the venues that are not meant for the art in the beginning, for the cultural events. And yeah, I think that the interest is to find the best solution to make to achieve our objectives. And by the objectives, I mean public engagement, and I mean developing partnership with the French institutions or NGOs, and the developing, this is one of our national objective or local objective, is to develop the local scene. And the good cooperation, it will be a good legacy after Timișoara 2023 actually. And as I run a small structure actually, and our objective is, yes, to have a good and a lot of international cooperation. And I think Eleftérios is a key person with some other people in this development.
And why circus is the way? Why circus and not something else?
Well, let's say that circus is another way of revisiting the link we create with inhabitants, because it's something that attracts the attention of the people, because it's the capacity of doing impossible things. And especially circus in the city is something, of course, not usual. We used to live in contemporary cities where a lot of things are forbidden. So the capacity of climbing a city that have the acrobats attract the curiosity. And of course, we have this question where we have something that is more universal as language, because we have the language of the body and the language of what is risk. So I think it's a good media. We think that circus should not be alone. That's why in this project we have a lot of also of dancers, because dance is very present, of course, in all cultures, especially in public space, where also there's a question. And of course, music. Music with real musicians, and this project was also the idea to link with music from all around the Balkan and the Mediterranean area. We work about this question of Oriental music. You know, all these countries had been a big empire, first the Roman Empire, but then for Byzantine Empire, and then of course an Ottoman Empire. So they share this kind of music that is called makam and Oriental music. And this is also very interesting, because in these countries, music is really part of the culture of the everyday life. So I think circus, music, and dance are something that can really have a strong impact of how people they can feel that is something different happening in town. And if it's not in the venue, if it's under a big top or if it's in the street, the impact, of course, is stronger, especially in these kind of cities where people are not used to go to classical venues and to see performances.
Yes. Reactions? Maybe you have any kind of reaction, since you are also using circus to go toward communities. I mean, this project, Ulichny
Cultural Street Festival. Yes.
Cultural Street Festival is also using circus.
Yes, it's using actually, hello to everybody, I'm Irena from Cirkorama and Cirkobalkana. Cultural Street Festival is actually using the street circus art to go into the artistically and culturally marginalized places of the city of Zagreb, and to bring actually art under the window of people who are living there. This project started in 2019, like initiative, like pioneer project. It was actually proposed by Cirkorama, but all local artists actually accepted to go. And for 1 month, each weekend in September, in one quarter of the city, which is not the center actually, we do like performances, street art performances, and also street art musician performances. And it's like after 4 years, it's really like something special, because we see that it's developing everywhere we go. There is a lot of audience actually, and from different quarters of the city, they're calling us to come there for this year to their quarter, or if we can come back, but the idea is actually to pass all through the city and then repeat. We wanted to make this project because in 2019, actually, we saw that, sorry, that there is a lot of activities and street festivals on the coast of Croatia, and Zagreb, it's not so touristic place, and mostly everything what is happening in the center. And there is like a lot of quarters of the city which are having this, like Antonia said before, some kind of traditional culture developed, and people are not oftenly coming from the marginal quarters to the center to watch to consume the culture actually. And from the other side, there was so many artists here, street artists, local artists, who once when the season is over on the coast, there is very, very hard to find a place at home in Zagreb to play on the street. So we decided to try with this project so that we can bring culture in these kind of places and open new territories actually for those local artists, so that they could be able to go into quarter, play there, having audience already there. So it was some kind of idea, and it's from my point of view is developing very well actually for the moment. And from last year we started also communication with one small town 50 kilometers from Zagreb, Sisak actually, and it was like 1 weekend for last year, and this year is going to be this weekend and 1 weekend in September. So it's developing very well. Yeah, and it's really important to say this is the city which was really like hit by earthquake last 2 years ago. So it's really important to offer them some kind of different things, different culture, different art, and this is it. Yeah. And one more thing I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of organizing one other festival, so I'm a little bit confused. From last year, we also started cooperating with TERRITORIAL and French Institute. So the idea is actually, even though the target are the local artists and local audience, we are trying to bring one French group each year just in one quarter to present again other way of street art.
And how do you, this is the two questions. First, what is the contact and the relationship with the local authorities regarding this project, and how do you finance it?
Okay, so the local authorities actually, there is an office of the city of Zagreb which give you permission for using space. We always apply for this, and we always get it there really nice towards this idea. And also we are communicating with a local organization in every quarter, Mjesta zajednica, yeah, and they are like trying to promote each weekend when they host us actually in some way, to promote and call the audience inhabitants to come actually, and this is really good because in this way they are like included in what we do, and they know people who live in the quarters, so it's like they're calling. We have a lot of audience because of this.
So this is the Association of Communities, or it's
no,
the municipality?
Each quarter actually has their own
neighborhood councils.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Something like this.
Yeah. So they are involved in the program.
Yeah. In some way, it is promotional way. Yes.
Yeah.
And first 2 years we did it with no money. It was actually artist financed by the head from the people who live in the quarters. And for the last 2 years, we have support actually of the city of Zagreb and touristic board of Zagreb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the financing, then we will come to it with Chloé maybe also later, because there is some ideas about how to responsibilize the audience also, and to connect with the audience in terms of solidarity, who is in solidarity with who. It's interesting.
Katie, I just would like to say that I'm really obliged to go in 5 minutes because of the delay of the panel. But just to say that, of course, the program is in progress, and of course, I can send you information. And the next year would be an important meeting of Psychostrada. So I hope that some of you would like to come and that we can share these questions, these ideas. Of course, there will be also the project in Timișoara this year from the 26th of September until the 1st of October, and next year too. And then the next step, the idea was maybe to build something together with different partners from 2024 about these questions of urban planning, architecture, and creation in public space. So I will not take more time. I'm really very sorry that I have to leave, but I have a very heavy schedule today because I'm leaving for Greece in Monday.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eleftérios. Thank you really for being with us.
See you soon, and hello to everybody, and Ime and Milan that I know, of course, and all the others that I cannot see. And yes, see you soon.
Yes. We'll be in touch. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, just to add also that Elefsina has many projects also with dance in urban spaces. Julie Desprairies is one of the artists doing things there with the communities, and Jonathan also was in touch with Elefsina in this.
We didn't really succeed to write to something.
They didn't succeed.
We discussed a lot. We did a lot of Skype.
Yeah. So there was a will.
Yes.
And Angeliki also, Elefsina was about to come here, but they are in a strong also work there. So maybe, yes, we can go to this part of dance outside of the venues and have maybe your feedback, Jonathan, but also Mirna, about what do you expect when you go outside of the venues? What do you expect with the audiences? What is the goal and what are the challenges? Maybe Mirna. Mirna, why did you invite them?
Well, the festival always looks at out of the box, non-traditional dance related experiences. And they are really good, that as performers, as people, and as artists. And for me, those are the three things that have to be tick, tick, tick before I want to engage with anyone, because we have enough problems as it is, we don't need work. But jokes aside, yeah, because of the need this year, and the other, and some other years, but this year in particular, it's really hard to find spaces. And also, there are so many underutilized spaces and spaces that could be used for dance that are not. And I like this clash of going into a space that you don't expect to see dance. So initially it was about finding such a space, but that was really difficult for us anyway in Zagreb, because it's still dance. And so there are some conditions that need to be met. But also because people in charge of these spaces do not understand. Some are curious and some immediately say, no, this is not a venue for you. It is not for dance. So, and then we originally were able, after a long search, to go to the Technical Museum, but then, and that's another challenge. On Monday, we were told we can only work there till 5. Also last week, we said we would work till 5, but the performance was negotiated after. And then we were at the Zagreb Dance Center, and the guys love the space, some of them love the space, and so immediately we switched to there. They were thankfully open for that collaboration. It's still the same concept because the center was repurposed. It's a repurposed building, and there are so many that is so rich with industrial spaces that are going to waste, that are underutilized, and where they are utilized, they could be more open. So they have a lot of experience with that. They were at the festival a long time ago, I think it was 10 years ago, or 6 or something like that. And yeah, we hope to get them back with another performance next year, which is too much for this year. But it's good for our audience. I think the audiences love to follow artists that we see through email and social media. They love to see artists return with different things, and you see that evolution in the art form, but also in the artistic journey. So all these things.
Yeah.
But also this project, out of the blue, we wrote it for Eleftérios, because our dramaturge, we worked for stage project, and we met the dramaturge when we did actually a big community project in Eleftérios. It was for the Lyceum, so she invited us 2 years in a row. First year was just to do workshops, and one big workshop happened in the antique site, and I fell in love with that place, and I said, Georgina, please, next year make us do this project. But then the challenge is you work in the morning, very early, before all the workshop starts, and you do performance for 120 people coming from all around the world, which is super unconventional, and then we say, yeah, we want to do it. So when we did this project with Georgina, we really created a strong relationship, and then she became our dramaturge. And so one day she said, Eleftérios is going to be the Europe capital of culture, so we should discuss the project. It's always good to submit something. And we love to buy application forms. And I said, yes, let's do it. So we brainstorm, and we had this project to free ourselves from the production, to free ourselves from the way we create, to free ourselves from the agenda problem, because freelance dancers always have to spend money to engage dancers. So we just wanted to free ourselves from everything. So there is no production, no space obligation, no technique. There is always all of this, but on a low measure. And so out of the blue, because we are based in La Rochelle, which is a city by the ocean, and it's really the opposite of what I would understood from Eleftérios. Like Eleftérios is turning it back towards the sea, and us in La Rochelle, we just do like that in the sea. It's like a postcard, and it's just about the postcard. And all the artistic activities happen inside the theater because we have the postcard, so we just set it. So we wrote this project thing like maybe we should connect both ways and say, what can we do with this reality? So out of the blue is what it means, unexpected situation, but also literally because French people don't speak good English. So they really think that out of the blue means literally what comes out of the blue, the color. Really, when we talk about that, out of the blue, you like the color blue. So we took this double sense as a joke, and so okay, maybe let's work with that. And so what the water shows us, you know, this plastic, this migration, this ideal, what the water can do to us, washing, cleaning, the guilt, like all of this Christian heritage. So it's like a package project. Said like, yeah, let's put everything, because part of this was actually the concept. And also why, you know, you also always use circus more than dance, because dance became this new age now, that there is little of annoying project for me. I see the dancers training for years, and they try just to dance at the end. Just try to have a job, so they are not complaining, to just okay, you want me to just move on this count, and I'm happy I have a project. So dancers don't stand up as artists, I feel a lot. So we use our team to really stand up as artists and say, we create a solo for you, so what do you want? And we use this oxymorous system of the world that we always relate to something very far. For example, in my solo, I use music from the indigenous people in Amazonia, because I actually believe, and it's really my belief, that we should take care of something which is very far from us, because we are also in this identity, gender, and all of these questions that, and also this Black Lives Matters, all this activity where you should be this box to talk about this box. And I think artists should relate completely differently to the world. But we are stuck with our box also. So it's a lot, and I think, so we invite our dancers, which are much more than dancers, which are more collaborators, to stand for what they want. So we also take their wish, and with all of these boxes, and we say, okay, let's do more site-specific than urban projects. So we take the architecture, and then we respond, and then we invite communities to meet. Some don't come at all. We're supposed to work with the tourists because we really like also to discuss with Irena, and it's also a relationship because I do the production and I like to hear what the programmers deal with and say, my issue will be to maybe work with the chorus. So you are deciding to work with the senior chorus, and I say, yes, that's good. So one more thing to grab. Or they never came, so we don't work with them. So, but you know, to hear from the people, what do they deal with and how we can respond to that, because in France, there is a lot of things about how do you work with your audience, but there's a brand your product, and the thing that your product will work with the audience, instead of asking us to work with the audience, to really make something together. And it's not only participative work, it's just like, I mean, we love boxes and we need boxes to make pages and turn pages, which is, I completely understand, but it's okay, maybe hear from the curator what is its issue and how we can relate. So this project is a bit everywhere. And now the challenge that we have also in that space is that we work with the people, but they don't work the same way as we do. In some places, it's a sprint, like we rise up together. In some places, it takes time, and maybe we rise up during the performance, which might happen tonight, I hope. So, but the audience has a parcours, and also you rediscover the architecture, and we bring the people to also discover places that we us as artists and you as people from the field, we know fully the architecture, the studios, but most of the audience just see the black box and they don't know all of this corridor. So when you enter inside the machine, it's fascinating. I mean, I love to go in theaters because of that, not because of the stage, but all of these places around. So it's also a way to share and use how your site specific is. And yes, we have condition as dancers. We need this floor, blah, 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 but then we let go of all of this principle and we go, like for example, tonight we train a lot and it's good because I start on the roof. Yesterday the roof was very slippery and today the roof was clean. So I say, okay, good. You know, you take what it is and you work with that.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that Roman and why I like these type of projects is to offer different experience to the dancers, because especially here the training is very traditional. The concept of production is very traditional. There are so many challenges, and I think in anything one attends in the independent sector. So I think when we bring artists abroad who are more conditioned to deal with these challenges, there's a fresh air that comes in a way and helps, and I think infuses these artists to recognize themselves and their own potential and encourage that dialogue. So for all, there are different reasons why, and I look at where the artists that do come into such projects that we think are open to, okay, we can work with this. It's not like
but it's not only to resolve the problem. No. So it's really like now this thing that I do, we did first once a project in Limoges, and it was in a completely different situation. And then some solos now are the same, and some are completely new because, yeah, now I feel that this solo that I do, normally it was not in the beginning, it was not on the roof, and now it fits well here. And I think also in each place we enrich the project really from what we get. And the idea that also, because we make pieces always, and we try to really do what we are supposed to, what we have send or sell. So it's like answering to your task. But if you can free yourself alone and continue and then enrich a project, like really discover new stuff, if the chorus will be fall in love, then we will gather the chorus voices and use it for the next performances. So it's all of this, but also this kind of strange project. First, it's hard to explain. It's very hard to write it down because my application is like 20 pages and people are like, okay, all of this, but I don't get what this was. So it's a bit like, yes, I have been sending to Nikola, to all of these places and also in France. And actually, Irena is who I know. And also we did this Perform Europe application, so we did tons of Skypes. And actually, no, but Irena, she knows us. And yes, you need to talk with the people. And I think it's also key to do the production. Is like, you can send tons of application, you need time and experience. And trust.
Yeah, we had the chorus. This is interesting. They were really excited. They wanted to hear more, and then they looked up some photos. They said, "Oh, we don't think they get afraid. Like, but it's hard." And then I kept talking to them, and they said, "Yes, but now it's too like on the weekend we have this last discussion. It's a bit too." Like we already decided that maybe this is not for us.
Because they looked at, there is many solo, and there is one solo that we didn't bring here because of agenda and money, but mainly because of agenda. And Vincent, he's doing, it's called Plastic is Fantastic. So he's having high heel shoes, pink. It's about this bimbo world, this XXL ID, where you go and you have this swimming pool stuff like your telephone or like emoticon of yourself with the sheet, you know, like all of these stupid XXL objects. So, and the dancing with Philippe Catherine music on GMT Fest, it's really absurd. But it's really provocative, but it's hilarious. But that's the only solo who is not actually happening here, which is fun because I think it's when they saw this solo that they didn't want to come to work with us. So it's like absurd, but we all.
And it's all part of learning and
yeah.
Thank you, and I will take some keywords. You were speaking about thinking and working with something which is far from us, and this is very important. You spoke about heritage, also places, and this connections with audiences. And I would like to ask Chloé maybe to react on this, because I guess you have many projects in that way, Patrimoine en Mouvement, which is on heritage places, but also how do you feel that the projects outside of the venues are changing the relationship with the audiences? I guess you have many experience in that.
Yeah, we started a project that is called the Patrimoine en Mouvement in 2015 with an abbey that is close to Aix-en-Provence, where we wanted to try something. We knew the mayor of the city, and so we just asked for the place, and he was okay to let us do something. And I would like to go on the trust thing, because I think those projects are mainly based on trust, because you don't know what will happen. And it's a mutual trust that can make those projects happen. So nowadays, for example, for the 22 edition, we have 10 different venues on the territory of Aix-en-Provence. It's small towns, bigger towns. It's historical heritage, but also industrial heritage or natural places. And we put circus in those places. And what I really like in those projects is it's in the same time a lot of constraints, because the place is difficult. You cannot do holes anywhere, especially for circus tools. It can be difficult, but in the same time, the envelope is so beautiful that you can do inside pretty much whatever you want. If it vibrates correctly with the place, then it will be something interesting. And so we use more and more those places for carte blanche, for the artists to adapt their work to that place. We have two different ways for the moment of exploiting those heritage places. The first one is Patrimoine en Mouvement, so it's 10 different venues on the same weekend for the European Heritage Days, where we put those circus arts into heritage places. And from that experience, we developed special nights in the abbey, in that beautiful abbey, that are, so the entrance is not for free anymore. And we bring the public inside the different parts of the abbey with different circus work, and they follow the path and they discover the abbey, and we even market that as a trip. It's like you have the boarding time, and so you arrive at your boarding time, and then you go through the abbey, and even sometimes you don't even look at who will be on the way, which artist, and so we inform the public afterwards of the name of the artist that they have seen, because they more often come for the experience than for the work itself. And I think that's part of the tool that brings new audience, because we first did this, we call it Nuit en Mouvement de l'Abbaye, so Nights in Motion of the Abbey. And it's becoming a ritual. Every year we do it twice a year. Even during COVID times, we did it in 2020, and in 2021 we managed to do it because it's a lot of volume in those places. So you have less spreading of the virus, so you can do more things. And you can more adapt also to go outside, inside, you can develop everything. And so we discovered that we had some of the audience that is not at all used to theaters or even living arts. it was a wish at the beginning, but it became a reality because they come for their boarding time. They start the path through the artist, and at the end they can have their food trucks and etc. So they can stay in the abbey and look at the place and have dinner there. And we realized that some of the audience, they started by having dinner. So they switched the first shows to have dinner first. And so it's also a big learning of that, working with those new audiences. They don't have the codes, but you also need to accept that they do whatever they want. So, they trust you on the way that you will do whatever you want, but so do they. So if they decide to eat first, you need to accept that and try to bring them back to the path whenever they're ready. And if for them like 3 shows is too much, and you decide to first eat and then go to the two last shows, you need to be okay with that. It's kind of the deal, and you cannot block them on a path that you decided. So it's really interesting, I think, on the way you interact with the audience, and I think that it was a lot of management of our team, because they were stressed to have people at the food trucks when there was performances in other places of the abbey. We put the food truck where it doesn't annoy the audience that is looking at the show. It's really different spaces, so there is no problem for the shows. But for our team, it was terrible, because at the beginning they were taking the audience saying, yeah, there is a show, you need to go now. They were stressing them. So it was a lot of work, but afterwards we realized that those people that are not used to the codes and the constraints of the theaters, they felt so well at that place that they feel ready to bring friends. So you have more and more people that have weird behavior, but anyway, those people are new people to see living arts. And that's I think that kind of experience can bring really new audiences to see circus arts. And we pushed that. Well, that place is now for us a laboratory of ways to interact with the audience. It's a laboratory on both sides, because on those carte blanche, we often just invite the artists and just let them do whatever they want, and not even sometimes asking what they will do. It's a trust with the artist that we invite. Usually it's an artist that we have invited for other things, for their shows that were planned on the festival. So we have a relationship, we know each other, and we know that they are aware of what will happen, and they are aware that we are embracing a lot of audience, and we need not to disappoint them. So, and they are ready for anything. That's also really interesting. You can have weird works that you would not be able to show anywhere else, but in that place it makes it interesting. And in the interaction with the audience, we also developed a special way of ticketing, because those projects, they are hard to found, because you cannot do the application for anything, because you don't really know what will happen. You decide like a month or 2 months before who will come, so it's too late anyway. So the city gives a little amount of money, but it's not that much. It's a small city, so it's a town, it's a small town, so they don't have that much money. So they give a small amount, and the ticketing, we didn't want it to be too expensive. So, for example, the ticket to just visit the abbey is €8, usually if you come during the day. And with the show, it's 11 euros. So it's show for 3 euros. It's not a big difference. But it was not enough money to do the thing properly. So we decided to do a solidarity ticket. So we explained to the audience that the shows that they are seeing, they cost much more than what the ticketing provided. So if they can pay more. So we have two different solidarity tickets. It's 15 euros or 20 euros, and they choose. And we just tell them it's more expensive than what you are paying. And we were really surprised. We tried that just before COVID because we went to the town saying we cannot do this anymore. I mean, it's too much money from the CIAM to do this, and we have no support from any other public authority to do this. And we invested for the first times to prove that it was something interesting. Now there are 900 people coming every night we do this, but still we cannot, in the same time, stay cheap as you are asking, stay cheap and not having money that way. So we did this online, and we had we have between 20 and 25% of the tickets that are sold at those solidarity prices without any incentive. I mean, the audience gets nothing of paying more expensive tickets, and still they do. So
how do you convince them? Like people who sell tickets, they talk to each person, or it's like just written somewhere if you want to come up?
The weirdest thing is it's online.
There is one online, but there is also that way when you sell the tickets.
No, not on that one.
Online is
just online.
Just online. So
rise up the price.
No. This is, for me, this is very important. It's very interesting on how you responsibilize audiences, but it's possible in France at least. I would like to ask you from the region about this. Is it something that is possible to think? Please.
I want to tell you, in our theater, we did this for 4 years. We do not call it a solidarity ticket, we call it a mecena ticket.
Sorry?
A mecena ticket. Mecena. You know what that is, so they feel like they know. And the prices are between, in our theater, the audience chose the price. So we started in 2005, we started with nothing, now the price of the ticket is 50 lei, that means 10 euros. They can buy tickets with 10 euro, 20 euro, 30 euro. It's their choice. So, and of course, they have a ticket. But in our case, you have to make a reservation. You have to call to make a reservation to come to the show. Then you have to come to the show, meet someone, and I ask you how much do you want to pay? 50 lei, 100 lei, 150, and they choose. Because we didn't perform for 2 years ago, that's true. Now, for example, in April, when we started again after 2 years, most of them, so I was really amazed, 80% of the people, all of them wanted to pay more, but not double, triple the price. I said, so where do you have the money? I mean, so it's really, it's a good thing, especially for a private company. Try to justify it. And this is only because every time we ask them how much would you pay for one of our shows, they always say much more than it's usual in our town, in our city, to pay for a ticket. So you give them this choice, and nobody gives.
We have the same. Yes. Yeah. Do you have something in Trafo?
Not only in Trafo. In Trafo now it works because we went to bankrupt. You know, so then we announced that. So, but not so many people. So there's another venue which is called Artus, a small community, and the people come there, but mostly professionals. So they don't have price at all. You pay as much as you want. So they don't pay so much, or they don't pay at all. So in our case, it works if we have a regular visitors, you know, so not professionals. In that case, it has a sense. If you have a real big public, that's my experience or our experience, then you have much more chance to get a higher price ticket.
Yeah.
For us, it's also a way to identify our ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ones that really that really like the venue. But we didn't do a proper study on who is doing that. But on those heritage projects, we use a lot of data tools to bring people from the region, from the really super local area. Because on those with those digital tools now, you know, I mean the GAFA, they know where you are any time of the day, so you can ask
the GAFA.
Yeah, I mean you can ask them, whoever is in between, within 5 kilometers of the venue, can you tell him to come? And we have a lot of renew of the audience during those projects. So I guess. The people paying those solidarity tickets, they are not only people that know us. It's more the way that you explain the thing and you say, it's your choice. I'm not asking anything from you. I'm just telling you it's more expensive. If you feel you can do it, then it will help. And people feel also feel there is I think the fact that thinking people always want the cheapest price is the wrong thing.
Because 11 is really under compared to France. Cinema is higher. 10 euro is like for student tickets. Otherwise, a basic ticket in Scène Nationale is about 24.
Right.
That this is a rate. So it's also compared to 11. It's really under.
Yes, but you are talking with people that are not going to the
No, but even to the cinema, if you go to see a movie, it's about 15 euro ticket. It's never 10 euro.
But we also had some audience that said it's a thing that we didn't think about. But when you come to the ticket page on the website, it's written from 20 to 5 euros. So when you're ready to pay 20, and then you arrive and you say, "Wow, there is a." It's not it appears to you that you're doing a really good deal, paying the full price, like the 11, because when you arrived on the page, it was you were ready to pay 20. It was a side effect of those tickets. It would people feel relief, but it's not 20 because they didn't want to pay 20, so they pay 15. It's okay. So it's a really weird.
But it's also related to them a good show because they pay once and they did not like it, they will not come back.
That's always the thing.
Goes together.
That's always the thing with new audience. I mean, whatever price you pay, if it's a new audience and you disappoint them with the show, they will not come back. So it's really
yes,
it's a big challenge.
In our case, it's really a funny story. We had some spectators that because they paid much more, they thought that they would have a better seat. Like this, so the opportunity is very big. And he plainly said, so I suppose I would have the best seat, but there is no best seat in our studio. And since then, we have a very, very nice armchair, you know, with that tapestry, the red together. So someone he or she wants, we put him there, we kiss his feet, we pay special attention to that person who wants to sit on that armchair. And usually now it's avoided that armchair because they know something will happen to that person. So we will perform keep in mind something appropriate.
For site specific, we usually we have groups of 300 people coming in the same trip, and we have like 50 chairs. So, and at the beginning, we tell them, we put the chairs for those that cannot stay standing. And you're much more as we are. So you can all look around you, and if there is somebody that needs more that chair than you, then you can give it to that person, because we cannot ask you. I mean, you are many more than we are. And it's also the responsibility of the audience. And it works very well when you just trust them. It's a total mutual trust.
Mm-hmm. I can share also some experience, but it's not related to shows. But for example, when we do an event for the kids from the circus school, so the parents are paying for the kids to be there, and then there is an event, and there is no logic to make the parents pay again to see his children playing. But what we do, what we did, we wanted to see how it's working. When you arrive, you play the deck.
Yeah.
Jouer le dé.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know what is the name in English. You know this cube with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say it's €2 1 point. So if you hit 6, you will pay 12. If you hit 1, you will pay 2. And but there is also, it's always a joke. There's some, you know, you hit 1, you don't have luck in gambling, but for sure you have luck in love. And if you pay €12, you hit 6. Well, you will get maybe something to drink on the bar. But we don't have a bar. Because no, we don't have a legal bar. But we have a fridge, and we ask the audience to feel like at home, and we say every time that you know the price of a beer. And actually, we realize that there is never minus. You know, people with the fact that he takes a beer from the fridge, he will pay €2 and the beer is €1. There is, you know, giving some liberty, some, you know, feeling of being part of it. People spend the money, but in the same time, again, it's not a regular shows where you have to finance this. It's somehow a job, somehow. But people enjoy it, and it works. Yeah.
We had a couple of times, but not too many times, a special campaign, because we got somehow signs that certain people couldn't get in because they don't have money. Mostly kids, children, grown up, you know, so adolescents. So we advertised, we made advertisements, so please pay more, and when the money comes together, they can come because it can cover the cost of the ticket. So we do special campaigns sometimes.
Yeah, for
mostly for circus, they're interested.
Yeah, hanging tickets. It's called in France.
Yeah, hanging ticket.
Yes, something that you can pay. It's also in the coffee. You can go to the coffee bar and pay one more coffee for someone that would need. And yeah, I would like to have your reaction about how it works also for Cirkobalkana, because I saw yesterday you have this solidarity box. Is it working? What it is? And also about audiences. We had no time to speak about how tent is something that could bring audiences, but I see that Cirkobalkana for 10 years is existing for 10 years, and now it's at the same time far from the city, but it's also a place that people know very well. And yesterday there were like 100 people at the performance, so it was like, wow, it's really something that people are coming and coming more and more. No? How is it?
Concerning how we work with the ticketing and with the donation boxes, we work a lot with the donation boxes in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's very, very different. It's different with the public also, what type of public is, what type of shows is. We do a lot of cabarets and open stages in the region on donations, and usually it goes very well. And sometimes we have kind of donation, but how you say, preporučena donacija?
It's a minimum.
Recommended donation. We don't ask a ticket, and of course, if somebody don't have money to pay, we always, I mean, it's free entrance for sure, for everybody. And concerning the circus tent, why we started actually with the circus tent, we already said a couple of times that we have a big lack of spaces for many things, and also for circus, and circus needs specific space because of height, I mean the dimensions, and also that's why we decide actually to bring the circus tent and to invest our money to offer to the local scene, to the artists, place where they can work, where they can show their work. It's very hard to enter in our national theaters and public spaces. It's really not so easy. You know now also what happened with this show. It's always some kind of problem, and in circus, like in dance, you have to train every day, you have to work, and here in the region, circus artists, they don't have opportunity to rehearse, even train every day. So this was one of the biggest issue that we wanted to solve with the circus tent, but also to offer to other type of arts, the other artistic fields, that this is a place, and to break this barrier of tradition, still not only in the region, in Europe too. When public see when you say circus tent, they think of tradition, they think of animals and traditional circuses, and this is our aim also to break this wall and to break this thinking and to offer the tent as a multidisciplinary space for many other art fields. So that's why we decided to start here in the region with the circus tent, and it's also very it's movable structure. You can place it wherever you want. You can use it for any type of activities. You can make education. You can make festivals. You can have a residences place. And it's very important. While we were talking before for the decentralization, we want to decentralize the art and offer to other small cities, and to offer to the local, and also to convince local authorities that circus tent, big tent, chapiteau, or however we call it, it's a space for work, and it's equal as a theater, and even better because you can move. Yes. You can build a theater wherever you want, and you can have the origins. Yes, yes.
But we see how much it's difficult to transdisciplinarity, and these connections are difficult to break, to
yes.
Always, and at the same time, I was thinking on how we were speaking about transdisciplinarity yesterday, and also how the venues have their own identity to secure and to show to the audience, to maintain, to attract their traditional audience, but also how you can maybe go to other audiences through this kind of new project outside of the venue. So it's something that you can combine. And
yeah, I think we really need to combine things, because also feel that we go to that places because we cannot get to big theater, but actually the big theater, they are dying from the side. And I think we build audience there, it's a parcours. Like as an audience, you need to go through different structures, and you go from maybe yes, the big studio to the big tent to the big venue and maybe the big opera. But it can also go on both sides. And I think the people also from the big structure, they are curious of different venues. And I think it should really work together, which is not the case, but
yeah, that's true.
If I may, I think everybody should have eyes and ears open, because the world around us is changing and the audiences are changing very quickly, you know. So it's basically what you're saying, you know, adaptation, you need to adapt to them. And I agree that the synergies between big structures, traditional structures, new forms are much needed, and the result is usually very good, excellent, innovative, and something that audiences love.
But the thing they don't have a need, which is wrong. But I think
yeah, but that's what I'm saying, you know, everybody should have eyes and ears open to what's happening around us in the world, and which also, you know, brings us back to the leading people in each organization, that it's up to them to open doors and.
But also, just an example, we met these people from the Maison de la Culture de Bourges, which is a very big institution, and they built a new theater, because they started to dig and they found archaeological sites. So it took 10 years to build the new theater, and they did 10 years of hopping from all the region, all the places, and now they just moved in, where all theater complains about losing audience, and we met them like 2 months ago, and they say we double our audience. We really clearly double our audience, and we are the only scène nationale between the 75 intents that double the audience, because we did 10 years of hopping, and now making the venue is like a common project. And I think it's a good example that yes, you need to combine both.
Well, it's a very, you know, a known strategy, extramuros, you know, I mean, museums do it, they, you know, they exhibit in shopping malls, banks, whatever. I mean, it's basically how you reach known audiences and new audiences. It's, yeah, it's absolutely, but it needs this flexibility which we're talking about.
I was speaking a couple of minutes ago, Devon was a couple of words about how Cirkobalkana in Belgrade is trying also to reach theater audience, which is not always the obvious thing, but because you start cooperating with Petit and for last.
Yeah, that's what I said. What I said in the previous talk. That was our aim, actually, to try to catch the theater audience, because I mean it's an art circus too, and for us as a small structure there, it was very hard to reach the audience. Even we have a festival for 10 years. Before we start to work with the BITEF, together with the BITEF, it was very hard with the public, and then suddenly. With the promotion and with mixing the program with BITEF Festival, theater audience start to understand what circus is actually, and what is the way of expression and the art in the circus field. And circus is very open and mixing different art fields. And it's attractive, so somehow the public is growing rapidly in the last three years. So I think the combination between and mixing the disciplines and the festivals has a big potential to educate the public for the future.
I also think that we should go to audience that that forward the theater, because, for example, in France, the studies they show that only 15% of the population goes to any living arts venue. Theater, music, dance, even modern music, big concerts. It's only 15, so it's like it's nobody. I mean, it's 85% of the population never goes to any culture, any living arts place. So the thing
you're talking about France.
I'm talking about France.
Come on.
And I would like to.
And so people like places like those supermarkets, those banks,
It's
like
full, yeah.
it's 80% of the population goes there. So we're 100%. Let's be nice with us. It's like, let's say that some of them don't go, but anyway. I think there is a real movement that we need to do, and being aware of what is going around us. Is to realize that many people are not touched, are far away, and not compete within our path between one place to another. We need to find a way to get those audiences as the majority to start a conversation with living arts.
But also without understating the artist, without lowering the aesthetics levels. It's very important. So not to have a populist approach.
I think it's part of the respect of the audience that you have. I mean, if you respect the audience, then you need to show them beautiful things and like a high level proposition. It's usually slippery. Yeah, it's slippery, and you often think that you're gonna show things like easier or more popular. It doesn't mean that you can put really high things in popular places. That doesn't affect one or the other. But it's a lot of work to find the proper way for the audience to be attentive enough, because in the middle of the supermarket it makes it a little difficult.
Yeah,
I refuse the supermarket project.
Me too.
I would like to maybe to wrap it up. Thank you to all of you. Just to say something in a positive way. Ulrich Fuchs, to come back to that one, was saying in 2019, I don't know the numbers now, but the figure in Europe of people going to venues, including cinema, was 12%. So the idea is not that the majority is not going, is that the idea is that we have so many people to reach. That is really wonderful. And I would like to thank you all for being here and for this discussion, very nice discussion.